Hi and welcome back to my playthrough of Mount Everest. For this episode I promised you some victory points and I really hope that I can bring at least this tourist up to the summit and maybe also some of these tourists here. I'm not so sure at this point in time, I have to confess, if I will really make it, because there are some very bad days in front of us, at least where they would suffer one level of acclimatization, and as well the red player has to deal with a very tough route here to the summit. It's quite fast, but you see basically everywhere they lose at least 1 or 2 levels of acclimatization, and the base camp is only here above the 8,000 meter line, so this can be pretty challenging. But let's start the new round, and I think we have to choose our cards. You remember we have a full hand again, so we shuffled our discard pile during the last turn. So these will be the cards for the blue player, and the red player was very unlucky with his cards he drew from the reshuffling action during the last turn. Right now he would need 7 movement points to reach this camp in basically 1 turn. Of course, he could sum up basically 7 movement points, but this card here would also subtract 1 level of acclimatization, and that's really a problem for the path he's going to take. So I think we have to postpone our storm to the summit for at least, 1 round. So we rather take those cards. And during this turn he would only have an upward movement value of 2. Blue has an upward movement of 5, so blue has to choose a risk token. Of course he will take the risk token with the value 0. Let's reveal a new one, and that's a 1. Okay, let's play this card for this climber. He needs 1, 2, 3 movement points. And we need 5 movement points to send this guy back to the camp down there. So that's 2, 4 and 5. This guide will use this card to move 1, 2, 3 spaces down to the base camp. And there he will load oxygen tank and 1, 2 and 3 clients. Then he will play this movement card to bring him 1, 2 spaces up to the camp here. There he will drop off his 3 clients he just picked up. And then I think we will use this card here to bring this guide 1 level down below the 6,000 meter line, because we do not want to want that the clients will suffer any penalties for the height and the bad weather. Let's do the acclimatization. This is most important for these guys here. So they would gain 2 levels of acclimatization, 1 for the dot here and 1 because they're at the camp. So this will be 1 and 2. He won't gain anything on top of that. These clients are still at a good height, so they would gain 1 level of acclimatization. That's the maximum. And this client gains 1 level of acclimatization because of being in a camp, but he also loses 1 level of acclimatization, so that's balanced out. Let's move the day track 1 day further, and then let's draw 3 new cards. Okay, red player can now select his 3 cards, and in this phase he can voluntarily discard 1 oxygen tank, and we will do that. And as we will do that on above 8,000 meters here, we would be allowed to draw 3 of these acclimatization cards and would be allowed to keep 1. Of course we will go with the highest one here, so the value 3, and these cards here, they can be now put either on top of the deck or below the deck. As they are both 2 points, I think we will put 1 on top and maybe 1 to the bottom, so we can at least suspect we get another relatively good card when we do this action the next turn. This card will now become a card in the main hand of this player, and now we have to select 1 card that we will remove from the game. And yeah, I'm really thinking that's a tough one. That's really a tough one because these are all relatively good. So let's really discard this one, because this would lose 1 level of acclimatization, and especially acclimatization is a problem for the red player because he does not have enough camps on his way. So let's get rid of that, though this will be really out of the game. For now, the red player will keep his acclimatization card and will choose these 3 cards. And I think blue will do the same, so we will discard this this oxygen tank. We will be allowed to draw only 1 acclimatization card, and yeah, that was a very poor one, but yeah, better than nothing. And we will discard this card from the game to replace this new acclimatization card. We are not allowed to immediately discard the acclimatization card we have just drawn. That's not allowed. During the next turn we might be able to do that, but right now that's not allowed. And I think blue will immediately play this new acclimatization card. Let's see how far we can get. Red has 6 upward movement points, blue only 5, so red has to draw 1 risk token. He will go for this one here. Let's reveal a new one. He's very unlucky. So we play this downward movement card to bring this guide here 1, 2 spaces down. Therefore we can directly get rid of our risk token here. In base camp he will load 2 more oxygen tanks. And then we will use these 2 cards, so that's 4 points worth of movement to bring this guide 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces up. Note, in a 2-player game, it's fine to have 2 guides on the same space, at this height at least. The blue guide will load his client here. Then he will directly play this card on this guide, so the client would now gain a level of acclimatization. And note, that's fine, because this maximum is only calculated at the end of the acclimatization phase. And then we will move the guide 5 spaces up, so that's 2, 4 and 5. There we will unload our client, and then we can directly do our acclimatization phase. So again, this guy would gain 1 level of acclimatization, so he would be now at level 5 because he's being in a camp. He would lose 1 because of the height, and then he would lose another 1 because of the relatively bad weather, so the client is still fine. All the other clients on the board or with a guide or whatever are basically safe or already maxed out, so there will be no change. This leaves us only 1 more thing to do, and that is to move the day trade 1 space ahead. And this is really, again, bad news for the red player. These 3 days was really a problem. So, to be honest, I don't have any clue how we will make any victory points for this guy. But okay, we have to live with that. Again, let's draw 3 cards. Okay, blue has selected those cards, and red goes with those cards. Okay, so both players have the same upward movement, so none of them has to draw a risk token. Isn't that nice? Then we will play these 3 movement cards on this guide here, so that's an upward movement of 5. And with those 5 points we will move him 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces to this base camp, and there we'll drop off our clients and also our oxygen tank. Let's send some oxygen to the camp, the only real camp for the red player. So we will move all his 5 movement points for this guide here. Note, he's carrying no tourists, so they don't suffer any penalty here. So that's 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 5. Let's do our acclimatization. So he would gain 1 point, but then this guy would also lose 2 points because, again, of the height or of the space here, and also because of the bad weather. So 2 down to only 2 points of acclimatization now. So right now I'm really not so sure if we will see some victory points. These guys are fine, they will stay as they are, and the same goes for the clients with the other guide down here. Finally, we leave the bad weather behind, so we come to another day, another token here. We will reveal the new one, and look at this. Okay, here's now really a chance for both players basically to gain some victory points. Okay, that's really nice now. Then let's draw 3 new cards. Red will choose these 3 cards, and blue will again discard one of these oxygen tanks here to draw an acclimatization card, and this time he's more lucky. He now has this second card in hand, and this is now a card with 3 points worth of acclimatization. That's very awesome. Let's see what card we will now discard. And I think it's not so easy. I think we will use we will use this card to discard from the game. And I think blue will use these 3 cards. Again, red has more upward movement points, and so he chooses this risk token here, so we can directly discard it. That's no effect, and then we will reveal a new one. That's again a value 1. I think we will move this guy up 2 spaces, so 1 and 2, and this guy 3 spaces, 1, 2, and 3. And there we will offload a whole bunch of these oxygen tanks, 3 in total. And then we come to the blue player again, so he will load his client back. He will directly play his acclimatization card. So, oh no, he was on 2, sorry, my mistake. Acclimatization card, so we would gain 1, 2, 3 levels of acclimatization. And then he will play these 2 cards worth of 3 movement points to move this guy 2 and 3 spaces up to this height. And this was already the action phase, so we can directly jump into acclimatization phase. And so he would lose again 2 points worth of acclimatization because of very high height here at Mount Everest, whereas the clients at this guide are fine. The weather is really still fair. Let's progress the day track. Still nice weather. And then we will again draw 3 new cards. And blue will go for these 3 cards. Okay, then he will discard 1 oxygen tank. And therefore he will draw these 3 cards. Again, awesome. Again, of course, he will go for this acclimatization card. And will discard this card for that. And then red will go for these cards, I guess. And again, both players have the same upward movement, so no player would have to draw a risk token here. Okay, blue goes first, and so we will play this card to move the first client up to the summit with 2 movement points. That means, for once, we can flip this client to this side to show, hey, you have reached the summit. Of course, we would also gain 3 victory points. That's 1, 2, and 3. And remember, we will be on the left side. And then we will play the remaining 2 cards with 4 movement points. You see, we would lose instantly 1 level of acclimatization for all the clients with his climber or with his guide. So that means this one is already down to 2, but at least we would be allowed to move 1, 2, 3, 4 points down back to base camp. Of course, we will unload this client here at the appropriate acclimatization level, and then we will play these cards here to move this climber or this guide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces up. We will unload our climbers, of course, also our tourists, and then we can jump back into the acclimatization phase. The weather is good, but most weather effects do not affect heights above 8,000 meters, so they just lose 2 points worth of acclimatization, so that's 1 and 2, and these guys also lose 1 and 2, so it's already pretty dangerous. This tourist here also loses 1 level of acclimatization, but all the other tourists are fine. Let's move the day track. And as our draw pile is depleted, we are not allowed to draw any additional cards, so we have to live with the 3 cards we have at hand. So red has to play these 3 cards. That's really a problem. 1 point is missing, and that's really terrible. And blue has also a problem. He has to play these 3 cards, and I think he will not be able to save this tourist here. Blue also has to choose a risk token. He will go with a risk token of the value 1. Let's reveal a new one. Let's load the red guide here. Of course, their starting positions they had when they were at base camp. Then we will play these two cards at this guide. So that's 6 point worth of acclimatization, which we can now freely distribute amongst our clients here. So I think this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I believe I will play now this card for the other guide here. Maybe we really are lucky and draw some better cards during the next turn. So let's send this guide down 1 and 2 spaces. Blue will load 3 clients. 1, 2, and 3. We will play these 2 movement cards for him. So all his clients now lose 1 level of acclimatization. 1, 1, 1. And then we can move him 2, 4, 5 spaces up. And there we will unload the clients again. We will load this client here to this guide. We will use this movement card here to send him 1 space down. And then we come to the acclimatization check. So for once he would lose 1 level of acclimatization here. He would lose 1 level of acclimatization because of the weather. So this client dies. He won't be able to tell anyone about his great adventures at Mount Everest. Oh, gold, gold, gold. Now Blues loses 4 victory points. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then these clients will gain 1 level of acclimatization. They will lose 2 because one of the condition here, and due to the weather, that's 1 and 2 down. Oh, I just noted one correction I have to make, because we have still not used this risk token here. So this guide would have never made it down here to this region here. So he's still here at base camp, but this doesn't change anything. The client is still dead because of the bad weather condition. Okay, the clients here, I think I did a mistake. Of course, these clients are now at the camp. So again, they would gain 1 level of acclimatization because they are at a camp. But then on the other hand, they would also lose 2 levels of acclimatization because of the height. So that's all down to 2. We don't have to adjust anything here. So anyone is fine. So sorry for that. So they are definitely at base camp. But for now, I will keep them here because I'm pretty sure I will move them in the next turn. Again, let's move the day track here. Let's see what there will be. Well, this looks okay to me. So we have still 2 nice days here, 2 cloudy days, 1 nice day. So maybe we'll be able to see some victory points. And this ends my playthrough for today. I believe during my next video I will be able to end this playthrough of Mount Everest. I hope you will enjoy it. Hope you enjoyed it so far. I know I promised you some victory points. At least you have seen some victory points, but you've also seen lots of them victory points. So our very first client died. Not so good, but still I hope you will be joining me during my next episode. And until then, bye bye.